my name is Chloe Yorks. I am a psychologist consultant for the U of M women's field hockey team. So for the 12-week agenda that I came up with is right here on the left. It kind of gives you a pretty self-explanatory week 1 through week 12. First off, starting with goal settings. So for the first week, goal setting. So what we're going to do is focus on process goals and outcome goals individually and with the team itself. So with the process goals, this pretty much talks about actions individuals must take to perform well. So depending on how well they want to perform, what actions are they willing to set for themselves goal-wise for them to do that. And then for also the outcome goals, so the ability to play for your opponent. So working on your goals so you're able to play as well as you want to during those like game plays or even practice play. So for the activity for this, I plan on setting up a team meeting. So with the coaches, me, myself, and then obviously the team, coming up with about 5 long-term goals for all of them to kind of agree upon, and then come up with 5 short-term goals. First, we want to set the long-term goals and then set the short-term goals, because the short-term goals are what pretty much are going to get us to the five long-term goals in the end. After we kind of go through this whole process, we're going to do a reevaluation after the first probably couple weeks, just make sure we're on track to where we want to be at for our 5 main goals. Next, we have motivation. So we're going to look at for the motivation for the individual and understanding how they're motivated, why they're motivated. We're going to look at the interactional view. So pretty much how the individual's goals are interacting, say with like their win-loss record. So are they motivated to win? Are they motivated to like lose based on their record that they have right now? So for the activity that we have is surveying pretty much the athletes and trying to find where they first found their motivation to play field hockey in the first place, and then figure out what's motivating them now, if anything. Also, pretty much kind of going through what motivates them as an individual. So do they like more like being hard on them? Do they like more positive influence? Where are they at motivationally, past, now, and then what can we help motivate them now more during practice and gameplay? Week 3 is going to be burnout. So pretty much we're going to be looking at burnout in either athletes now or just discussing burnout and the possibilities of having burnout in the future. So burnout is pretty much where the love and motivation for the sport is no longer present, but sometimes individuals just keep going with the sport because they started loving it when they were super, super young, but now they just feel a lot of pressure from peers, parents, and even possibly scholarships that they may be getting because they played field hockey or they do play field hockey. So the activity that we're going to go through is look at athletes' participation during practice per se, week prior to week 3. So I'll be doing an observational study to kind of observe things such as fatigue, not being really social with their teammates, looking kind of out of it. So just not being as well participated in the sport as they're known to be or that we think they should be. And then kind of discussing with that individual characteristics that we saw and asking them questions on if they possibly do feel burnt out. So for week 4, we're going to be looking at anxiety and arousal. So it really depends on the athlete, but getting kind of nerves optimally to like not work against you. So looking for your optimal arousal and optimal performance and seeing where that's at within certain athletes. To kind of go more into the activity with this, we are going to take a sport competition anxiety test. It'll kind of go over their state anxiety. So on our way to the game, we are going to take this test. Afterwards, we're going to look at, calming methods. We could do some like breathing exercises, yoga, stuff like that, and then take the test afterwards and see if their anxiety has risen or has gone down. After that, week 5, we're looking at eating disorders. So with eating disorders, this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people, but it is something that needs to be discussed, especially because it is very, very known in female athletes. As you can see here, ranging from 1% to about 62% of athletes reported an eating disorder. And that's pretty much most of them who came out and were willing to say that they have. Unfortunately, there are those who don't come out and say that they have had an eating disorder or have one at all. So for my activity for this, we are going to conduct a pretty much conversation with each individual athlete, with me and the team's nutritionist, asking the team members individually and discuss on past, present eating habits, maybe possibly eating disorders, making sure that they feel comfortable talking about these subjects and that it's not happening anymore, and just making sure, that they're eating their 3 meals a day, having the correct amount of calories that they need because they are active, they need more calories. And I know it can seem like a lot for people, but it needs to be talked about and it needs to be taken care of before it gets worse. Next, we are going to be talking about athletic injuries. So a majority of athletes do experience, obviously, injury at some point in their lives, but we just want to make sure the no pain, no gain isn't in this sport of field hockey. With the no pain, no gain, unfortunately, that shows that, we accept the injury, we don't really care about it, and we're kind of putting it off to the side. We want to make sure that if they are injured, they are feeling some sort of pain, we're taking care of it as soon as possible. Talking about this and discussing about athletic injury makes it more of an open plan to, be like, hey, listen, we accept that you have an injury. We are going to fix it before it gets worse. And we don't want you to feel anything such as identity loss. So a lot of athletes pretty much experience identity loss where, sport is their everything. They are an athlete. They are the field hockey athlete at U of M. Unfortunately, with identity loss, this can come with a lot of other things, such as, depression, such as anxiety, them feeling like the coach doesn't really care about them anymore. So for this activity, we will be taking a survey on the team, talking about if they have been injured, how long they were out for, and if they've experienced anything mentally, such as anxiety, depression, kind of talking about, if the coaches treated them any differently, and kind of having an open discussion with the team and coaches and discussing, we need to make sure that these students are still involved in the sport, whether they can play or they can't play. So yeah. For week 7, we're going to talk about arousal regulation. So with arousal regulation, we're going to talk about how pretty much anxiety affects more than your brain. It affects all the muscles in your body. So with all the muscles in your body being kind of tense, it creates, muscle tension and can create more injury for your muscles themselves. So to kind of talk about regulating arousal and kind of, calming yourself with that anxiety, or for our activity, we're for 10 minutes going to go through some breathing activities. Some of them can be box breathing, lion's breath, belly breathing, stuff like that, and try to find one that each athlete enjoys the most so they can do that when they have high levels of arousal. Week 8 is going to be imagery. So imagery is extremely important for athletes. It allows experiences in their brain, either good or bad, so they can be better motivated and prepared for game day. So having imagery in your head, kind of thinking about, the possibilities, it gets you prepared for anything to happen. So for this activity, we will be having the athletes on the bus ride over to the competition probably about 20 minutes beforehand, have everybody close their eyes. And I myself am going to go through, stuff that may happen during game day, either bad or good. So they have that image in their mind in that moment, and they can figure out, okay, what's my best option to do during this time? What's my worst option to do during this time? And what am I going to do during this time? Week 9 is going to be exercise and psychological well-being, So pretty much talking about how exercising is great no matter what, for mental illness, mood, whatever you may be going through, but how, being in field hockey year-round can be definitely very stressful and make you possibly burn out. So we want to talk about how, doing leisure exercising, maybe going on a walk or run, playing volleyball, walking your dog, whatever it may be, is very, very good for the athlete to not get burnt out and to have kind of, less stress in their life. So for this activity, so for week 9 until week 12, I'm going to be having each athlete do at least one leisure activity per week. And then we're going to take a test before and on week 12, talking about if their stress levels have increased or decreased during that time. Week 10 is communication. So we're talking about interpersonal communication. So talking about ourselves during game day, gameplay, practice. Say you mess up and you're like, wow, I really suck. We don't want that. We want positive self-talk. So with that activity, affirmations are a great way for positive self-talk. Pretty much saying things like, I am going to do great today. I'm going to make like 10 goals today, wherever it may be. Having positive self-talk about yourself is a great thing to reflect and make you feel good. After the positive self-talk, we're going to sit down as a group and talk about how it made us feel and if it helped with any interpersonal communication that you may have, maybe a week prior to where you were being negative to now where you're kind of being forced to be positive. Next, week 11 is team cohesion. So team cohesion, we are pretty much, working together as a team is a great influence for the entire group. Having different opinions, different, ways of doing things. It's great because it gives other people influence on to do different things differently, pretty much. So one thing about the team is having roles. So whether it be captain, co-captain, whatever it may be, roles are very important to all on the team. So to create more of a team cohesion, for my activity, I had created a team cohesion pretty much positive, like they're going to work together. And so if say we have about 24 girls on the team, we're going to split them into 2s or 3s, depending on how many girls there are, and assign them together. And then towards the end of practice, they're all going to state where they think everybody is on the team. So, oh, I think you're a leader. Oh, I think like you're the funny one. I think you're like the hustler, stuff like that. It creates kind of more team cohesion in that sense. And then we're going to mix it around. So everybody's going to have a different group like each day of practice. So everybody kind of gets their own way of thinking that, a lot of these people think I'm a leader, or a lot of these people think this thing about me.